Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Open Book. I am Billy Price, co-founder of BILLY Footwear. And as always, today we have a fantastic guest sharing the screen with me today. So when it comes to my rehab, when I broke my neck, I got introduced to a lot of physical therapists and a lot of occupational therapists and a lot of therapy assistants. And, my heart sincerely goes out to those folks in that field because they make such a huge difference. And sharing the screen with me today is Joana. Joana is a physical therapy assistant. She is a mom, she is a wife, and she has just this passion to really add value to the planet. So, Joana, welcome.
Hi, and thank you, Billy, for having me today.
My absolute pleasure. So, Joana, I think a great place to start would be, I know I can go on and on and on about, physical therapists and the assistants and all the value you guys add, but I think a great place to start would be if you could share where your passion comes from, how you got into where you are today.
So, Billy, many years ago, my grandmother, she suffered a severe stroke, and at the time, my mom was taking care of my grandmother full time, and I would have the therapist come over to our home, physical therapist assistant, occupational therapist assistant, and they would just work with my grandmother and try to get her back to her previous level of function. And I just loved what they did and how they worked with her, and they were just so passionate, and I wanted to do something like them, and I wanted to give back. And so now, a few years later, I graduated and I became a physical therapist assistant, and I've been doing that ever since.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. And it's interesting because our paths, if I remember this correctly, it was because you were reaching out through Instagram and
Yes.
because you just have this passion on your heart to be able to be a resource for people to be able to, find the stuff that they're looking for. And that resonated with me so much because I struggle with that too. So I was hoping
Right.
you could tell me a little bit about, your goal and your dream to be able to be that contact.
Right. So I live right outside of Houston, Texas, and we have a big Hispanic population, Billy. And a lot of our parents out here who have children with special needs, they don't have the resources that they need to obtain a wheelchair, get AFOs, or even how to start therapy services. And a lot of the times it's because of a language barrier that they may have, or they don't even know where to start. And I felt like I needed to help these families. I would go home and I would still think about their situation, and I said I could do more. I could help some way because I speak Spanish, and I'm being utilized at work to translate in some situations and talk to these families and build a relationship with them. And whenever they do have questions, I want to be there to guide them and put them in the direction that they need so they can get everything that they need for their child or for their family member, even if it's like, getting a wheelchair or just getting any kind of equipment that their child may need.
Yeah. Can you talk about ways that, like some of the vehicles that you use to be able to engage with those folks that are looking for services?
So some of the ways that, I talk to the parents. Sometimes I text with parents, I'll email the parents. And during right now with some of the schools being closed, or parents choose to have their child at home and do virtual learning, we'll communicate even through Zoom meetings. We will, like I said, communicate via text and email. And those are some of the ways that I'm providing these resources to families currently.
Got it. But I also know that you do YouTube videos too.
Yeah, so I also wanted to do educational that physical therapy can help with. So I will talk about different diagnoses, just to help families understand better a certain diagnosis or certain equipment that physical therapy may deal with. So there's so much information out there, and I'll get out there for anyone from anywhere so they can view and learn from it, or even share it with anybody who would think that benefit from it.
Right. It's so interesting because, you're working with your community, which is just kind of within arm's reach. But given the way the world is now through technology, it's amazing how you can share something helpful in your community and it can just stretch to all corners of the globe. So especially
Right.
Instagram, YouTube, through whatever channels those may be. How do we, for Instagram, what's the best way to find you on Instagram?
You know, everyone. So my Instagram page is physical therapy _ terapia física. And the reason that I named it that is because that way I can reach anyone that speaks. Click into my page and find, and I just hope that it's helpful to anyone and that they like my content.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome too, because it's also a situation where, like, one, they'll find your information, but also you generate a relationship with that person. And then it's probably a situation where you can elevate those success stories.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, you're in the, if I'm remembering correctly, you work in the school district as well?
Yes, I work in a school district. So, you know, I have students who can communicate verbally and some that cannot. And for the students that I can't really communicate with verbally, I will reach out to parents and, you know, ask them things like, what do they like? You know, how can I get them to engage in, you know, therapy? So if I have them like on a walking device or in a standing device, you know, they might like Dora the Explorer, or they like Curious George, something that they will like, so they can work with me for the full session. And, you know, and I also have to educate not staff on what I do so they can implement those kind of goals daily. So it's a lot of training, a lot of working with other staff members to be able to help our students out, and that they're not just in a wheelchair all day, and that they have everything that they need while in school.
Right. So one thing that, I mean, when it comes to physical therapy and all the therapy sessions and occupational therapy assistance, whatever it may be, even like speech therapy, you know, it was amazing. It was amazing how, you know, me being the patient, I'm working directly with the therapist, but the therapist is working not just with me, the patient. They really are holistically working with the whole family, because it's kind of a team plan. And it's not a matter of the therapist fixing the person. It's a matter of like empowering the person to be able to give them the tools. So one, they can make the choice to try to improve, and but also giving them, you know, kind of the structure of how to do it. So it's, I don't know. I honestly cannot thank therapists enough for the space that you guys live in, because I think sometimes it may be kind of seen as a thankless job, but you guys add so much value to the world, because, you know, life's hard. Life is hard, but it's a matter of like being able to help equip people to be able to find the answers they need so they can, you know, really better their lives.
Right. And, you know, prior for me working in the schools, I did work in a inpatient rehab. And kind of like what you say, you're working with nurses, you're working with the doctors, you're working with the nurse's assistant, and helping patients transfer from their bed to the wheelchair and to the wheelchair to the bed. And, you know, let's just say, you know, the patient is just improving very slowly, and it's time for them to go home. You know, we will invite the family members to come to the hospital or the type of setting that they're in, so they can go home feeling confident enough to say, I can take care of my loved one. You know, so we'll do transfer training, we'll do teach them how to, you know, stand back up from a wheelchair, or even how to use an assistive device such as a walker. And those things, it's even like how to fold a rolling walker, you know, those things. It's like, you know, how do you do this? How do you even function? But, or even getting in and out of a car, like you don't think about those things. But if one side is weaker than the other, you have to adapt to how you are going to transfer from one place to the other. And it might be that little thing, but we want to make sure that our families will just come as we do, because we do it every single day, and that they can go home and do those things that we taught them how to do, so they can feel comfort and peace while they're home.
Yeah. And the part that always I think it's important to remember is what you were just describing is more the mechanics behind it, but there's also so much emotion attached to it as well. Because I mean,
Yeah.
in my case,
Right.
all I can really relate to is my case where my mind was still in a place where I could do everything. And now I'm entering into a space where I need assistance. And that was very difficult for me to mentally grab a hold of. And it took a long time for that healing to occur. But while you're going through that mentally, you still need to work on the actual mechanics to be able to make yourself successful, to be able to change your mindset to do something bigger. So again, like, it's just like your role is just so incredibly critical.
Yeah. And, I loved, getting to know my patients and talking to them about, just listening to them. Like, what is it that they want to be able to do when they leave here? Some of them is just to like, hey, I want to be able to use the restroom by myself. I don't want somebody watching me while I go to the restroom. And it's those little things. And I'm like, okay, well, let's practice doing some sit to stand so you don't have to get anybody to help you with those kind of things, or just even dressing themselves, brushing their own teeth, things like that. And I just feel like we can help them in any single way if they, have the will to learn.
Right. Well, I got to say, I mean, so we've been talking a lot about physical therapy and, that role that you play, but that's just one of the hats that you wear. You're also a mom and a wife. Can you tell me a little bit about the home front?
Yes. So I met my husband when him and I were in the United States Navy, and we were both stationed in San Diego, California. But we are both from Houston, Texas. So we actually met out there in San Diego. So we knew that we wanted to come home and, start a family. So after we discharged, we came back home, and we were already married, and we started having children. And I have a daughter who's 8 years old, and I have a son who is 4 years old. And I mean, I love them. They're great. And being a mom to them is great as well. And there's a lot. I work full time, a full-time mom as well. And, I love it. I love it.
Well, I remember seeing one of your posts where your daughter, I think she was one of your example models for doing, I think, standing on one leg or something like that.
Yes. So she said, Mom, now that you're gonna have a YouTube channel, can I be on your video? And I said, okay, you can be my little guinea pig. And I said, okay, I'm gonna have you do stuff, but we gotta be serious because I can't have you, joking around and all that. So I said, all right, you can be my little model. And she was very happy with that.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I got to say, I mean, Joanna, I'm so happy that we got connected through Instagram. I'm so happy you reached out because, the reason I believe, I'll let you speak on this, but I think the reason you reached out is because you had a number of clients that were looking for shoe solutions. So that's the way we got connected.
Yeah, it's so funny, Billy, because I've been working with my students for 4 years now. And I just remember one student in particular, she was wearing one of your shoes, and we just thought that it was the coolest thing. And we wish that everybody had those shoes. And I just want to say thank you to you for creating something like this, because I can see so much value in it as well. And the more that I can tell other parents who, probably may not know about, your product, to me, it's going to make me feel better that I can, give them that information to say, hey, you know what, you can, your son or your daughter can wear these shoes as well, and they could be in style, and it makes it so much easier for us to put them on, take them off, and I just love it so much. And I'm so thankful that there's a product out there for our students and for anyone of any age that can really just wear the shoes. And I do see a big need in our community for my students who do wear braces that could benefit from wearing your shoes. And I love it. Thank you.
Well, Joanna, thank you very, very much for that. I mean, there's a couple of things I'd like to say about that. One is it's definitely a team effort. There's a lot of people working hard behind the scenes to be able to bring that product to life. But the interesting thing about it, if I can go way back, when I first broke my neck, mentally, I went to a very dark place. And I truly thought that my life was over. I couldn't see out of that fog. I couldn't see what could be possible or would be possible. And the thing was, it was the physical therapist. It was the occupational therapist, the physical therapist, the assistants, the nurses, the doctors. They were the ones that actually saw potential in me before I saw potential in myself. And as I said before, it's not like they fixed me, but what they did was they allowed me to see out of that fog and to be able to make a choice to focus on what I had instead of what I had lost. And I love this conversation we're having right now, because I mean, you're thanking me, which I mean, thank you so much for that. But the reason that we got here is because of the therapist. So it's like it started with the work that you're doing. And I just love it. I want to do everything I can to be able to empower you to do what you need to do.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So before we sign off, I want to give you the mic one more time, just to be able to share, whatever's on your heart. We can talk about something that you've already mentioned or something new, but I just want to give you the mic one more time.
So I just want to thank everyone who is tuning in right now for allowing me to be here and that you're listening to me speak. But I just, I'm so thankful for being here. And I just want to reach anyone who, either if you have a family member or a child that has, just a difficult time, or needs some kind of equipment or resources or just educational videos. I just want you to share my Instagram page to anyone that you may know that could benefit from it. And watch my YouTube videos if they are helpful to you or to anyone else, and say, hey, I remember that girl that was with Billy, and just think of me, so you could share that, because I would love to help anyone from anywhere get the resources that they need.
So perfect. Joanna, thank you so much for your time today. This really was a treat.
No, thank you, Billy. I appreciate it.
Well, everyone else out there listening, thank you so much for chiming in today. This was another episode of Open Book. We will have another one next week. So until then,